welcome to all our viewers and thank you so much for joining our discussion today. I am Mansi Fadnis from YourStory, and today I have been given the opportunity of hosting a webinar about the next generation innovation and technology that's here to change the future of the educational sector. Before introducing our speakers, let me give you some background on the topic of our discussion today. In the education realm, the advent of futuristic technology has started to pick up momentum. Futuristic technologies are predicted at resolving several common classroom issues like student participation and engagement, data tracking, and increasing student achievement. Also, closer home initiatives like One Class, One Channel, digital labs, digital universities are set to benefit learners, educational institutes across the K-12 and HEI segment in the times to come. Thus, to delve deeper into the next generation technology that's here to spark the future of education, the webinar delves deeper into the aspects of how K-12 educational institutions should adopt new technologies to impart high-quality education to students to make them future-ready, and of course, the impact of such technologies to comprehend the benefits for children across various ages. To explore the future of this and to gain a deeper understanding, we have a brilliant conversation in store with the industry experts like Yu-Kai Chow, gamification pioneer and creator of the Octalysis, Manish Maheshwari, founder and CEO Invact Metaversity, and Santosh Kumar, co-founder and CEO 21K School. But before we get into the questions, a quick introduction of all the speakers. Yu-Kai Chow, gamification pioneer and creator of the Octalysis, is a believer that gamification holds the key to helping several people stop procrastinating, identify their true calling, and take action. With the mission to help people around the world reach their full potential in life, he has been awarded the Gamification Guru of the Year award by the World Gamification Congress and the Gamification Europe Conference for the years 2014, 2015, and 2017. Manish Maheshwari is the founder and CEO in Invact Metaversity, which is the world's first 3D immersive virtual learning platform, empowering students to interact with one another and their teachers through animated avatars without regard to where they are physically located. An MBA with honors from Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania, where he also won the Shil Zeilman Award, the highest award for entrepreneurship. Manish was the head of Twitter India and also the CEO of Network 18 Digital. And finally, we have Santosh Kumar, a thorough professional who firmly believes in pursuing passions. His sojourn took him through several IT companies across the globe. And after 8 years, bringing him to his ordained purpose, 21K School. An alumnus of IIT Delhi, he is leveraging the power of disruptive technologies to unlock possibilities in online schooling. Gentlemen, a very warm welcome to all of you. And now, without taking much time, let's dive straight into the questions. And I am going to start off by asking Manish this first. Having the scrutinized look of the scenario around, it can be concluded that India has successfully forayed into the journey of digital education. But sadly enough, digital education is still a far-fetched dream for many. On that note, what do you think are the best ways of ensuring digital education is made accessible across the country to ensure equitable education for all?
Yeah. So, Mansi, you talked about three keywords, accessibility, equity, inclusion, right? And my personal view is, and I think this is a view probably shared by many people, is that technology can be a major accelerant for improving accessibility, inclusion, and equity, because you can do things at a fraction of a cost, and you can also achieve much better distribution of outcomes while leveraging technology. Let me give you a practical example, right? It is difficult to imagine that a country of 1 billion people, all of them, we can create relevant schools or colleges and put them through those colleges in a physical way, because that's simply not possible. We cannot have that much of a real estate to do that. But technologically, we can create virtual campuses and we can provide them the same educational experience of being taught by the best teachers in the best educational surroundings, leveraging technology. And that is exactly what we are doing with 3D immersive education at Invact Metaversity. So that's how we think about it. Over to you again.
Right. Now, while we are also talking about the learning outcomes, you guys, according to you, what are the best ways of resorting to gamification for ensuring those proper learning outcomes?
Yeah, so I think the most important outcome of education is retention and actually applying the knowledge to make a difference in the world. And one of the things about technology is that it enables the content, right? It enables the education and things become accessible. But one thing to remember is that it's not just the content, it's the experience and the engagement. So if the content is boring, before the technology, you have a teacher putting 20 students asleep in a classroom. With the MOOC digital technology, now you're putting 20,000 students to sleep in the classroom or when they're sitting at their home. So the key is about how do you create an experience that's so engaging that they feel like they're using their creativity, they have autonomy, they feel empowered, they do feel that social connection with people, that sense of development, accomplishment, and whatnot. And when they actually feel like these are all tools that they can use to grow and improve themselves, that's when they'll take that knowledge and go change the world, which is what this knowledge is there in the first place, enabling everyone to their full potential to change the world.
Santosh, post-pandemic scenario witnessed an upsurge in online education, right? Now, how far do you think are the pros and cons of this system in shaping the future of a child when compared to the traditional method?
So, see, if you go by stats, India has close to 26 crore learners who are in the age group of 3 to 17, and there is a UN stat which says that 66% of world population lacks basic literacy level. If you need to reach each one of them to the remotest part of the world, what you need is a mode to deliver this. And I don't think being online is key, and I think strongly that being online is the only way to reach that. So UN has so many sustainable goals, right? All these sustainable goals or UN goals you can only reach if you have quality education being imparted to the majority of the population. So one way or the only way which I see which is achievable is through online. Now there may be debates going on in terms of effectiveness and all those things. That's where real engaging content comes into play. You can, as I was discussing with some of my colleagues, a kid will be ready to actually play PUBG for a full day, okay, but they don't sit in a class for even 15 minutes or 20 minutes. That's a kind of attention span every kid has got. So if we bring in engaging content, make learning gamified, give them something to be rewarded on a continuous basis, every kid will learn. Every kid has its own learning curve. We have to make it personalized. So only way we are able to achieve it through being online. And I feel that online is years to say it will actually innovate. A lot of startups will come, a lot of new initiatives to come. They will keep on innovating the content. Video was a content which was there for 2012 or 2015, and right now we are going into metaverse. So metaverse is the content which will help engagingly learn or being online in an effective way. And small stat, if you want to add, Chennai, the city where I am based out of, it requires 1,400 schools in next 5 years. Now, what makes it so meaningful is like 1,500 schools in a place like Chennai to find real estate, to do $1 billion of investment, and then waiting for an ROI. Best ways to have complete online systems, right? To save governments, everybody is working towards it. So online system is here to stay. It is only that how well the companies are able to deliver it, completely engagingly and get a learning outcome out of it, which will matter.
Right. And now talking about metaverse, I would like to come to Manish here. In fact, Metaversity is the world's first 3D immersive virtual learning platform. And right at the beginning of this conversation, you touched a little bit on what Invact Metaversity is doing. But can you shed some more light on this concept and how it is beneficial to the education sector?
Let's just talk about metaverse first. So far, when we were thinking about technology and our connectivity, it was all in two-dimensional space, right? So when I'm attending this Zoom call, I'm looking at a screen. I'm not inside the screen sitting next to you. The same with internet, right? When you were going to a website, you were looking at a content on a 2D screen, and you would click on a link and you would go to another 2D screen, right? Now today, the technology has advanced so much that you can create the impression or a feeling of embodying the internet, and you would feel like you are actually in an immersive space where you can wear a headset and you would feel like you are sitting next to people, you're talking to people in the same shared virtual space. So we are trying to create that same shared virtual space in the context of education. Because our view is education and learning is a social experience. The reason why we go to college or universities when we were growing up was not just because of the class, right? We used to go there even when we had no class, because we used to hang around with our friends. A lot of learnings happen in the hallway, in the auditorium, in the cafeteria. Now today, all that is missing in online learning, because when you attend a Zoom class or when you watch a YouTube behind a paywall, there is no serendipity, there is no social community layer. You move from one class to the next class, or you watch one video after the other video, very isolated experience. And no wonder the completion rate for MOOC is only 8%. So now we are changing that. And the way we are thinking about our solution is that it has three core pillars. One is virtual identity. So basically, what is your identity in the metaverse? That is your virtual identity. So you can take on your own form factor and you can embody that and expose that out to your friends and colleagues. Or you can also take on any other form factor and whatever can optimize your learning outcomes. So that's virtual identity piece. The second is the whole virtual experience piece. That is where the engagement, gamification, your sense of presence comes in. And that is where we are using virtual reality technology. And the third one is about virtual ownership of credentials. So whatever the assignments you do, the kudos you get, the projects you submit, all that is in a virtual format these days, because we no longer write on a piece of paper. We create whatever work we do digitally. So all that can be owned by you. It can be an NFT, and it can be put on the chain, linked to your identity. So when you bring these things together and you solve for the student's learning outcome and solve for education as a domain, you get a pretty potent product, which is game-changing and also disruptive. And it also opens new possibilities, right? Why should Harvard or Wharton or IIMs be limited to the top 0.1% of the world population? Why can't you create them on virtual space, on Metaversity, and make it available to people at large at a fraction of a cost and without degrading the experience? So that's what we are trying to do. And that's what we call like attend campus from your couch, the WETS experience out there available to you wherever you are. You don't have to leave your house. What you need is only the connectivity and the bandwidth, which in India is actually quite cheap. In fact, India has one of the lowest cost of internet connectivity at this point in time. So I think that's where we are quite excited about, and that's what we are working on at Impact Metaversity.
Wonderful, Manish. Thank you for sharing that. I think this whole concept of campus from your couch is a very, very interesting concept in itself. Coming to you, Kai, now banking on gamification, what according to you are the various ways in which global innovation can be deployed in making children future ready? Because making children future ready is all that everybody keeps talking about now.
Yeah, I think when you look at games, right, a lot of games, you actually have a character that starts off with no skills, no abilities, and the students need to plan their character's growth, right? And in the game, there's a purpose, defeating this big demon or saving the world in some way or form. And they have their role, are they a magician, or are they a assassin or a warrior? And based on, they have to define what are the skills they need to learn, what are the alliances they need to have, what are the quests that give them the right experience points and allow them to level up. And I think kids, when they do this type of planning, they're actually very, very good. They can actually plan level 5. I want to learn these skills, level 10, level 20, at level 60, all my skills synergetically make me the strongest player in my class in the server. But when it comes to real life education, because there's less of those FIBA mechanics and guidance as in the game, students just feel lost. Like, it's too big. I don't want to think about this. But I think the same kind of knowledge and discipline can be applied into the education world, which is allowing the students to understand, okay, what are you actually passionate about? Do you want to solve things like sustainability? Do you want to create peace or eliminate hunger or just, climb in your organization, right? You can kind of define what is the game you want to play and then kind of map out what are the skills you need to learn, what are the classes you need to take, what are the specializations, what are the allies you need to form. And I think when that kind of experience is immersed into the education system, kids will be a lot more engaged. When we talk about, even though kids, they say these days have no discipline, right? And no work ethics and no perseverance under hardship. When it comes to leveling up the characters, a lot of kids have amazing work ethics. Some of them wake up 3 a.m. in the morning behind their parents' back to secretly start training their character, making them stronger, and do very honestly monotonous activities like killing the same monsters over and over and over again on the same stage for hours. And it's because they see why they're learning, why they're growing, why they're improving. And I think that's the biggest thing, connecting the why, the purpose of the education to their current experience, and then create that gamified bridge to say, this is where you are. This is the gamified bridge experience quest that you need to go through. At the end of the day, you will be able to be a really strong player in the game and eventually beat your game.
Yuka, thank you for sharing that, and as I was listening to you, actually, I was listening to you as a mother first, because I have a child at home, and now it's all about, how to make them future ready. So one thing I really would like to ask you is this, that how early can these kids start? Like, what's the age where we can actually start introducing them to this?
Well, it depends on what level of gamification you are applying, because just like games could be World of Warcraft with a lot of technology, but it could also be hide and seek, right? No technology. The key is not what's the medium of technology, it's about how they make people feel. In my work, I'm creator of the Octalysis framework. We break down all human motivation into 8 core drives, things like feeling accomplished, things like feeling socially connected, things like feeling empowered or even curious. So the question is, how do you integrate these experiences into the child's learning experience? So I think I started gamifying my parenting since they were 1 year old. I have twin daughters, Symphony and Harmony Chow. And so I started doing that, but I don't use apps or digital experience for that. I think as they grow slightly older, I'm introducing a little bit more digital tools for them to learn and grow, and then and just like how they can evolve through that. So I think in our work, there's what we call explicit gamification, which are things that feel like a game. It plays like a game. It's you can opt in, opt out. And then there's what we call implicit gamification, which is it doesn't really look or feel like a game. It just has a lot of the feelings, those 8 core drives that nudge people forward, that make them feel great when they do regular activities in the real world. And there's everything in between. So I think I would recommend you to start as early as possible, because you can see kids from very early on, they already like to play. Right? They're already curious about the world, and it's about giving them a experience that's worthy of their curiosity.
Right. Thank you, Yuka. Now, Santosh, what are your thoughts on this?
So yes, gamification plays a major role in terms of engagement. As I was discussing about how do we give or impart learning effectively online. So one way is engaging the kids, and kids get engaged by gamification. Gamification, more of a thing is, one is interface which we'll have like a metaverse. Secondly is the rewarding mechanism. The more and more reward you give to a student, or you give to a learner, the learner is more interested or more engaged in learning more. Or it's like you get rewarded for learning. Everybody says play to earn. I say that learn to earn. So kids attention span is what we are targeting. If you sit in a school, if there are 20 kids, right, top like 16 top 60%, they will be always like top 20%, they will always be engaged, and bottom 20% they will never be engaged, and rest there is this 60% who always stay in between. How do we capture those guys and get them engaged, get them immersed inside the complete platform is one thing. And various rewarding mechanism which has come with Web 3.0 is like NFTs. You can reward them with coins, you can reward them with various gifts and all those things. So once this kind of ecosystem is evolving, learning becomes easier, learning becomes fun, and learning becomes also really effective. So I see that this is going to be game changing for any learning environment going forward.
Right. Now, Manish, keeping this thought alive, how would you envision the thought of roping metaversity for online classrooms?
So our view is, right, I mean, education is not just about content, it's also about the experience and also accountability, right? So the way we are solving this is, clearly we are creating content which takes into account the benefit of a 3D immersive space. I'll give a very practical example, right? So when you do a management case study in a physical classroom or in an online, like a Zoom class, you would have to go through a couple of pages of context setting before the crux of the case starts. In Metaversity, you can recreate that environment. For example, you're talking about a case in a shop floor in a factory. You don't have to describe the factory and what is lying there and how the machines are working. You can transport the students to a shop floor and they can see it themselves what is going on. So that is what I'm talking about, like a metaverse-verse content, right? And where we are looking at like what part of the educational content can be delivered much more effectively on the metaversity kind of a setup. The second thing is all about the experience. So when we say experience, it includes many things. One is, of course, gamification, which is, people do want to be pitted against one another. They want to keep a score on who's doing well. And those scores and those credibility flow into the social interaction. So we're also designing social interaction spaces. Is there going to be a park, a library? How the interaction happen? How would they talk to one another? How would they learn about common interest? Who do we pair them with? And then linking everything to your identity so that you have a community feeling. Like you need to know who your community members are, so that even after class, socialize and you get the community, and then that translates into your alumni relationship and also other things. So we are holistically thinking about this, and we are starting out with a 16-week Meta MBA program. We'll give them business foundation training, and we are taking graduates and fresh graduates into the program. And the outcome here would be they would land an entry-level job. And in that 16 weeks, they will experience this entire thing. And not just the content, but also the whole experience of attending a classroom, interacting with industry practitioners as teachers. And that the entire experience will also give them employable skills, because the entire curriculum will be based on what the industry needs. And that's how we are sort of now translating our vision into a very tangible, practical, implementable curriculum. And then that results will sort of give us the confidence now to expand to other programs as well, that not just why Meta MBA, it can also be for engineering, it can be for product management, it can be for content management, it can be for journalism as well. I mean, why not? The whole idea is to make higher education to relocate to another town and sort of completely change their lifestyle based on that. And the another important thing also here is that this is extremely powerful for women, because it gives them access to network and community they traditionally have been deprived of, because they have not been able to relocate to major towns and go to places outside their hometown because of the social and cultural norms in this country and also in several other countries. Now they can attend any college their couch, right? So, you have same access as your male counterpart. And that would then completely transform women's participation in education and ultimately in the workforce as well, because they will have access to the same network and peer group that they can rely on to further their career and become more powerful and more important in the workforce as well. So over to you, Mansi, on this one.
Thank you, Manish, for sharing that. Now, Yuka, we would also like to know from you, what are some of the global examples that you can remember right now for advancements in online education?
I think one that that's very, very well known is Khan Academy, in the sense that it actually creates this learning tree, growth tree of how you unlock new skills and grow. And I think it's pretty amazing, because I have friends who, let's say they majored in history in college, and they said after they finish school, they will never, ever want to touch math again. They just hate it. But then suddenly these friends, they're going on Khan Academy 1 or 2 hours every day, and they suddenly got really interested in advanced mathematics. And they're like, wow, I never imagined this. And then they said, because one, the content makes it fun and exciting. And then also the journey is gamified. So they really enjoy that. Duolingo, I think, is another solution that a lot of people are familiar with, is learning language, in terms of also having this gamified journey of leveling up. And there's the quizzes where you could lose your hearts and all that, and things like that. One that less people know about, but I think it's pretty incredible, is Dragon Box. So Dragon Box is a little game, and their goal is to get little kids, second graders, to be kind of addicted to solving hundreds of algebra questions. And I remember when I was in 8th grade, algebra was not overwhelming, but it was definitely very, very difficult. It's definitely one of those core grindy schoolwork that no one likes. And I see the little kids, again, second graders, they're fighting for their parents with their iPhone, say, hey, I want to play Dragon Box. I want to solve these algebra questions. And they don't even know they're doing math. They think they're trying to feed this dragon, and the dragon's very shy. So they have to be isolated on one side of the equation, and they have to move everything else to the other side of the equation. So X equals everything else, right? And they have Angry Birds that they can play, but they don't play Angry Birds. They play this game. So there's a variety of very exciting examples that people are familiar with. And I think the speakers here, their companies, their products, the 21K School, I think, is a very, very exciting development that too. There's more and more gamified online platforms, like BitDegree is a client that we work with, and they did an A/B test with their gamified experience, and they saw that course completion, this is for adults learning, but the online course completion increased by 300%, and the completion speed became half the time. So in half the time, 3 times more people completed. So I think there's a variety of examples that are booming up. Like I think it's a whole trend that's happening. I think it's very important to recognize the trend, because in the early days, it's all about hardware, right? Making technology possible. And then it's making software, which is allowing people to interact with that technology. But then people realize, hey, I'm actually not happier when I use this technology, and I still feel lonely. And I'm not engaged. And that's why you have a whole wave of movement in terms of focusing back on the human being. Then you have mindfulness, consciousness, and yoga became very popular in the West. You have traditional economics becoming behavioral economics. And I think gamification is that how to make everything fun, engaging, human-focused design. So I think we're definitely seeing a trend of going from technology to the individual person's feelings and motivation and basically what's going on in their brains. And I think it's very exciting. And I think anyone who's watching this is part of the frontier in that wave.
Yuka, that was really nice listening to you talk about those examples, and so relatable, right? I mean, when you were talking, I wish that somebody had made algebra interesting for me back then. I would probably have done better, in mathematics. But now, and you mentioned 21K and the work that they are doing. So coming to Santosh, what according to you could be some of the top-notch innovations in the online educational sector, promising students a better future?
Mansi, that's a fantastic question. So our guys have been researching on this for the last couple of years, and so presently what we are based teaching, because historically we are having so much of workforce coming out from colleges, higher studies and all, but are they really employable? It's a very big question mark. That starts from school. So that's where the skill-based teaching is something which we need to have from day one from the school, which will give you a cross-functional mechanism to learn. For example, if you are learning algebra, how do you introduce algebra in English class or in English lecture? Or how do you introduce grammar in a science class? So this kind of cross-functional skill-based learning is something which we are working on as far as academics is concerned. Secondly, as far as interaction is concerned, we are also venturing into Web 3.0 space, wherein our major point or major focus will be onto 3. One is blockchain, wherein we put our students on a blockchain along with their avatar to give them a digital identity. Second is a metaverse, where they will have a complete immersive learning in terms of what they learn, what they how the learning outcomes are. And third is AI, the AI tool, which will completely work on the data, which will be personalizing the learning experience of a kid. So with these 3 as a major pillars of future education, we are venturing into it. A lot of people say that Web3 it's a kind of hype, but I would say Web3 is something which happened for automobiles from horse carts, and what happened to mobiles from dialing phones, and what happened to internet when it came towards the social media space. So Web3 is in that kind of crossroads. But yeah, this will be our next game changer, and we are not confining ourselves into developing the product, but to teach kids Web3, because 10 years down the line, you never know what kind of technology they will be dealing with. But if you teach them, because interestingly, one of the kid asked us in an 8th grade is asking, see, I want to be a YouTube creator. Why are you teaching me Pythagoras theorem? Fair question, right? That you can't answer that kid. Nowadays, we need to learn how to, it's no more teaching the kid, but how to answer that kind of questions. And there is a study also done wherein 65% of the kid wanted to be a YouTube creator, because the jobs are changing, the preference is changing. Everybody want to be a creator, innovator, and different kind of thing. How do we equip them from the school days is something which we are working on deep. So rather than developing the technology, how do you teach also kids to develop those technologies is our major concern. Yes, academics is always the major pillar, but how do we deliver that academics along with the skill-based teaching is something which we are deeply working on, and which is imbibed in 21K schools culture altogether. Because now we have who have published books, we have top-notch sports people who are performing well. We have a we have a couple of YouTube channels created by our kids. We have a podcast dedicated to which is running by, when our kids are running these podcasts. Maybe media doesn't know much, because it's a completely kids-driven initiative, wherein 21K school just enables them to do this, and they are just going forward and doing a lot of things. So there are a couple of authors which are emerging, and we are going to publish those books as NFTs also in next 2 to 3 months time. So this is what we are in verge of creating, the future kids for the future generation.
Right. We certainly look forward to those books, Santosh. Now, talking about Web 3.0, Metaverse, blockchain, NFT, how would you like to describe 21K School's vision in bringing these into the classrooms?
As there are three major things which we are working on. As first, let me start with metaverse. Metaverse is a completely new learning experience which we are giving them. It's no more learning management system, but a kind of school operating system which we are creating, wherein students will be rewarded. Like everybody talks about cryptocurrencies. Everybody is saying that there is a country in Philippines. A lot of people lost their job, but they lived just by playing Axie Infinity. It was a play to earn model. In India also, it is very famous now. But what we were the first guys to bring in something called as learn to earn. The more they are engaged, the more they learn, the more they come to the class, participate in the class, they get rewarded by coins. Right? These coins will help them to offset the education fees, whatever they have, or the course fees, whatever we have with us. This actually brings in a complete, a different perspective to learning. It's not like we are giving a job to, but it's like we are rewarding the kids. Once you start rewarding the kids, because games are all that. PUBG, why people get addicted is they want to be feel proud of what they are getting rewarded, right? Next level, next level, next level. So that's where that kind of environment which we creating in the metaverse, and every kid next comes the blockchain space wherein all the kids will get a digital identity. Second thing, we have seen like last 2 years, we created a lot of artworks, so beautiful artworks kids have created, but that's just lying in our LMS. So beautiful in terms of images, in terms of video, audio, so beautifully, but it is just lying like that. So what we decided, let's mint it as NFT and put it as an art gallery. If somebody likes them, they will buy and it gets rewarded to the kid. So we started coming up with new ideas, and all these we came up with the interaction with the teacher parents. For example, parents told me we need a social medium to interact. For example, our kids are they're at house for 3 to 4 hours, but they want to interact because we have kids from 34 countries. Like we have Russians, we have Indonesians, we have people from South Africa. Everybody is interacting. How do we take that interaction to next level? How do parents also interact as part of that community? That's where we are developing a completely moderated kind of a platform for the students, where students are openly discussing. Because the biggest problem right now students face in this world is depression. Like close to 30-40% of the students suffer from depression. One way to bring them out of that cocoon and be happy in the environment, to have that social interaction. So that kind of social layer is something which we are developing for parents and students. Because end of the day, a school, I consider 4 pillars are the something which actually makes a school. One is students, second is teacher, third is parents, and fourth is society. If you don't have all these 4 pillars aligned and holding a school together, that will never make a great school. So that's why 21K School, we have evolved our complete product based on what the parents need, what the students need, what the society needs, what the future needs. And that's how we have completely evolved. And last part is AI. Everybody talks about AI. It's not something new I'm talking about, but AI is all about capturing the information, finding out what is required, what is not required, and also personalizing the learning experience for a kid. For example, a kid passes out from a class, like say 6 to 7, he gets 60 percentage. Same kid, another kid gets 80%, another kid gets 95%. But what the kid was missing, wherein he didn't get that 40%, and who is working towards to improve that? Nobody is looking at it. We are actually working towards that space. Like even if a kid is getting 60% and getting promoted, where he lacks, and how can we improve it in next grade, or in 2 months gap, or in a month gap? So that's very important, and that can be only possible with an AI driven system. So these are the major pillars which we are working on, and which we are actually completely transforming the way the schools are functioning. Now we are also working with as a creator model. For example, the metaverse which we are creating, students will create more assets inside it. It's not that we only creating assets. It was like teacher driven content, or a companies used to develop a lot of content, but we want our students to develop content for their learning, so that next students are coming, next set of generations, it becomes a complete ecosystem of learning altogether. It's a kind of a world where students keep learning and help others also to learn. So that's our major long term goal. The way we see that learning will be completely reimagining. Now when it comes to metaversity, we were very inspired that this concept has been completely now being taking part in higher education space also. Because I have seen higher education, you need to be meaningful, and to be meaningful you need to be online. And they have shrunk the course also to 16 weeks. That is phenomenal, because Why do I need to spend 2 years on an MBA college when I get the same quality of education? So that's kind of education, that kind of outcome is something which we are trying to design into the UK school as well.
Right. Santosh, thank you so much for sharing this. I think I was very intrigued by every little bit that you were saying, and you have described the vision in bringing Web 3.0, NFT, blockchain, metaverse into the classrooms. But given that 21K School is the leading online school in the country, what is your vision for the school and how do you see it impacting the upcoming generation?
So in a year or two, we want to be leading online school globally. That's my vision. We want to reach 1.4 billion learners. See, there are 1.4 billion learners in the age group 3 to 17. We want to, create an impact on each one of their life by whatever ways, maybe with a free version or directly imparting education or something. So I feel that the day we reach 1.4 billion people and create a difference in their life, that's where 21K School is successful. Till then, we are a startup. We are not a company till then.
Right. But Santosh, I think the work that 21K is putting into empowering students is exactly what you guys spoke about in the beginning of the conversation, that online education, gamification in education sector is all about empowering the students, right?
Yes. Yeah. So it's all about empowering the students and giving that power to the students so that they can keep learning. Because as I told, the generations are changing, right? So we need to be also at par with the generational requirements. So sooner or later, any one of them have to align themselves to that.
Right, absolutely. Now, I think to conclude, we can all safely say that it is safe to anticipate that online education is here to stay, and next generation technology would for sure spark the future of education. Now, my question extends to all of you here. How far do you feel this would help to shape up the competitive landscape of the financial industry in the years to come? I think I would like to start with Manish first.
Various sectors have been disrupted. We have seen major disruption in retail with the e-commerce coming in. We have seen disruption in entertainment with Netflix and Amazon Prime coming in and bringing the best of content into our bedroom. We are also seeing disruption in fintech. All the financial services are being reimagined. But education is probably the last bastion to be disrupted because we still talk about the Ivy Leagues and IIMs and IITs, which have been created like decades ago. And forget about the top tier. Like you go to tier 2, tier 3 colleges, they are completely like very old curriculum, no linkage with the industry. The placement record is very bleak. There is no practical application. So my view is that this is the next frontier for disruption, where education will get disrupted. People will start asking the question that what is the purpose of education? Who are we solving for? Who is my customer? What is the customer benefit we are delivering? And how we can deliver that benefit in a much more effective manner, and also how do we make it more accessible and inclusive? And I think when you start asking those fundamental questions, then the entire idea about, say, the idea that came to us is also originating from that same question, saying, why do we value going to a physical campus when the same form factor, the same social engagement, the same community layer, the same immersive experience can be replicated in virtual format? And technology is quite advanced. So that's how we are looking at, like, future has to be, future comes in when you think about, when you ask the first principles question, and then you leverage your technological know-how to make things a reality in the current form. And that's how I look at things at this point in time.
Thank you, Manish. Yuka, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I think every industry will be impacted by education, right? Because at the center of every industry are human beings, and human beings grow through education. And so I think as digital education becomes a theme and gamification, good experiences get immersed into that experience, I think people are just becoming powered up to change the world, to be better inventors, to run the financial sector better, to have better fashion sense. And I think the foundation of everything is education. Now, I think just like people are mentioning, the education world doesn't move very, very quickly because it's all like, it doesn't, there usually isn't this pressure, stress of like being in a competitive business world and like trying to outcompete you. It's usually there just for people to like learn and grow, government sponsored, et cetera, et cetera. So, and even though it's government sponsored, a lot of people don't And in government units, they're not looking at the long-term investments, because stuff we invest in education will make a difference 5 to 10 years from now. And a lot of people like to look at what's ahead 1 or 2 years. But as more and more people like our group here are focused on making education better, more accessible, more engaging, I think that will lift basically every single boat that human beings touch in the future. So it doesn't matter if it's finance or whatnot. And of course, the people who have better skills, they'll contribute more to the talent market. I always say, like, nowadays you see there's actually a global surplus of labor, but a global shortage of talent, right? And as education goes better and better, we'll have a lot more talent, and we'll reinvent our future.
Right. Santosh, your thoughts on this?
So one industry which like two industry which has not been disrupted in last 3 decades, if according to me, is education and agriculture. And today we are in a crossroads where that is being disrupted completely with the help of technology. And to educate, as everybody is saying, to feed most of our population, which is increasing at that particular rate by 2050, and to actually educate and getting our future workforce ready, you need to work on the technologies for education today. You need to adopt to new things, teach the children the new things, not the always the old way. Now, my question sometimes is, why do I need to read about Khalji in Delhi when I can teach somebody how to create a quality YouTube video, right? No, I'm not saying maths or something. If I teach some kid creating a quality YouTube video, within 2 years, he will be a big YouTube creator altogether. So why can't we actually think of education from a different perspective and go on that particular direction? Now, technology is the only way which will enable this in order to disseminate, quality education to remotest part of the world. And that's here to disrupt, and that's here to stay. It's only how we are, evolving the complete ecosystem, how we are, accepting it. Because, COVID, 90% of the schools said that they were not successful running classes online. It is not that case. The percent of the school were highly successful. They had the technology, they had the training, they had all the skill set to teach online. Because teaching offline and teaching online are two different things. Secondly, 90% of the schools were exposed in terms of their quality. Like, I know a fellow friend whose kid was studying in a very prominent school, paying around 3 to 4 lakh. When he saw the English teachers, English, right, he was highly disappointed, and he decided to remove his kids from that education system. Because after paying 3-4 lakh, and you see that what is the kind of quality being delivered to the classes, that was only possible because it came online during the COVID. Now, COVID, a lot of people took online learning is not here to stay, or it doesn't bring in social emotional learning and all those stuff. But that is a myth, and it is more socially interactive. And with the evolving technologies, people will get more involved, more emotionally connected, more social learning will happen. Because you can't connect with a Russian kid and learn about their culture, the way they celebrate. And you can't have South Indian kids studying, talking to a North Indian kids, and the way the Baisakhi is celebrated or Pongal is celebrated. This kind of interaction you cannot have, in a normal school, and you cannot come with a real-time social interaction. So online learning is here to stay, and it is here to actually disrupt in a big way. 10 years down the line, we don't know how the technology is going to change, but yeah, we are sure that we are on the right path of this kind of disruption, because the kids of today will, reimagine the technology of tomorrow. That's how the things are going to change.
Right. Thank you, Santosh, for sharing that. Now, this quite sums up our discussion for today. Innovation in the educational domain is slowly ramping up and is yet to shoot skyrockets. With that vision in mind, let's think of all the great innovations that are yet to arrive. A heartfelt thank you to all of our speakers for their valuable time and insights. Also, a very big thanks to all of you who have logged in. We hope that you found this discussion enlightening and engaging. Take care, stay safe, and keep reading your story.